Welcome to the channel. This is going to be a review of episode 2 of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, season 1. This is a show I like quite a bit, mainly because of the two main characters pictured here on the screen. Um, it does not follow the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith that had Brad Pitt and Angela Jolie in it. It's not that action oriented. It's more, the way I describe it is Sex in the City with guns. A lot of very good dialogue between the two main characters. Um, if it has a weakness, it's around the spy part of it, because they are, in fact, spies. They are working for some unknown organization. They don't know each other to start with, and they're put together as a married couple. So, in episode 2, they start off and they still don't necessarily trust each other. They don't actually know each other because they have just been thrust together. So it starts with John's out on the porch meditating. So Jane starts going through his stuff and gets caught by John. And they have a bit of a conversation about that. She then goes to buy them some breakfast in a very New Yorky kind of way, going to some little packed diner to get them bagels. And he goes through her laptop. So why a spy would leave her laptop open other than trapping him? I don't understand why he doesn't understand it's a trap. But anyways, he goes in and he starts going through her browser history, and it's all very uh, all the links are towards S&M, cannibal. I don't know, cannibals. There's such a thing as a cannibal. Uh, Pornographic site. But anyways, he starts seeing that, and then she comes back, so he quickly closes it down. And they're sort of discussing them amongst themselves what they should be doing, whether they actually should be intimate, and what they want out of this project. So that's kind of very good dialogue. The characters work well together. The writing is good for them. Um, so then they get a package appears while she's out. They open it and they get their assignment, which is this is the part this week, and they get an assignment, and it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, at least not to me, anyways. They are supposed to go to a silent auction, determine who's the highest bidder on a Warhol print about a crash or something. I have known nothing about Andy Warhol. And then they are to inject him with truth serum and then report on what he says. So, any of the movies I've ever seen, when you inject somebody with truth serum, all they do is tell the truth. So, unless they're given a list of questions, I don't know what they're supposed to accomplish by this. But, anyways, that's the part about the writing that's not particularly good or could be done better. It's a black tie event. They're supposed to go dress to the nines and blend in and that kind of stuff. So they get changed and they both come out looking very good. And they go to the black tie event. Um, but John, when he's going in, notices that it's all pretty well all white people, and he says he's going to have a tough time blending in. So he determines that he'll go in as part of the wait staff, and for some bizarre reason, the wait staff are dressed exactly like he is in his tuxedo, minus his jacket. So he takes his jacket off and can blend in. Doesn't make a lot of sense, I know, but that's what happens. Jane goes in the front door. He goes in with the wait staff. It actually kind of works because he is able to wander around with his tray and peer over people's shoulders. This is at a silent auction, which means, and people are putting bids via their phones. So how they're supposed to determine who's the highest bidder, it's kind of beyond me. But anyways, they managed to do it because they do spot a guy who's a real estate person and is known to be like a billionaire or very well off at least. And basically, they go around peeking over people's shoulders to see who's bidding on what, and they decide that he's the target. Now, how you think that maybe he could be outbidded? I don't know why they had to do a silent auction other than just to be difficult, but that's what it is. So, um, both of them kind of talk to him. They decide that Jane will try to seduce him, so she goes up and fails miserably kind of at talking to him because he's a bit of a strange person. But ultimately, she says that they should go upstairs and then pay one of the wait staff to do things. Things aren't specified, but um, so he agrees, and they go upstairs. She magically picks out John. They go upstairs. So then the target gets them to go down on all fours and start to pretend to be dogs, which is kind of stupid. And then he joins them on the floor. Oh yeah, so when they got the package, they're told the parameters of the mission. They're supposed to no witnesses, no casualties, all in capitals, and to make sure that they don't inject the guy with more than one dose of the truth serum. Now, why they would think that they would do more than one is beyond me, but anyways. So they, when they're down there pretending to be dogs, John gives Jane a look, and then they both stab the target with the hypos and inject him with two doses. So, they have a bit of a conversation about, the hit was supposed to be a signal that he would do it, but they didn't actually, because they're new, they didn't exactly come up with a plan. So at that point, and I think it's John Tortino, fairly well-known actor, is playing the target in this, so that's quite good. But he just starts babbling immediately, so I guess the true serum starts working immediately. A whole bunch of nonsense, and they're not quite sure what to do with him until he runs down to the main auction hall, grabs the mic, and just starts blabbing away about some of the people in the audience, about him, that all his money is ill-gotten, and then some other guy, and he's a sex trafficker, and then somebody else, and is cheating on his wife, which is okay. So that's the material that I guess they think that is of interest to their spy masters. But he eventually kind of collapses, and the two of them, feign taking him to the hospital. They get him out, throw him in their car, take him home, where he's sort of blabbing a whole bunch of other stuff. Again, doesn't make a lot of sense, talking about how lonely he is, and he recognizes that they're lonely, and okay, a bunch of stuff. But eventually he dies. So while they're trying to find an EpiPen, they apparently don't know where the EpiPen is. Not that an EpiPen, I think, makes a difference. It's supposed to help allergic reactions. I don't think it's supposed to help double doses of true serum. But anyways, he dies. And so now they're like, what do we do with him? How do we get rid of them? And it's kind of funny. They decide that they have this big giant composter up on their back garden. They'll just toss this body into the composter, which is okay. So nobody's going to notice, I guess, the smell of a rotting corpse over the yesterday's greens from their salad or something. I don't know. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But the hilarious part is they take his clothes off, except for his underwear, and then they're trying to figure a way of getting him into the compactor because it's pretty small. So they decide they're going to fold him by breaking his arms and legs. And there's kind of a funny scene where they start doing it, and then they both start retching because it's not fun with what they're trying to do. But they eventually get him into the uh, composter. So that's the end of it. Except for they don't feel too good about what they've done. They're watching sort of like cartoons, and they start making out, which is back to the start of the thing where they don't know whether they're supposed to be intimate or not and what they should be doing. But anyways, that's more or less the end of it, except for while they're fooling around, they get a message on all the communication is via chat, basically, in her laptop. So as they're fooling around, the message comes back in that they the bosses consider the mission incomplete and that they failed. And so this is a shot here of them jabbing the guy. And they have 2 fails left. So that's kind of the ominous part going forward, that what happens. There's a mention by Jane at one point of what happens if we fail, because they were told that they can't fail. So yeah, they don't really know what it is, but it says 2 fails remaining. So that's kind of the sword of Damocles hanging over their head, that they're not particularly competent because they're new. They could in fact fail, and then they don't know what's going to happen to them. So episode 2 is here's the scene of them trying to fold him and almost puking, or trying not to puke while they're folding him to try to put him in the composter. But yeah, I find it interesting series. I'm enjoying it. The dialogue between these 2 main characters, the chemistry between the 2 main characters is really good. Where the show's lacking a bit is some of the stuff that happens is to do the spy part of their job is a bit far-fetched, or doesn't make a lot of sense, or whatever. So, like I said, this is not a particularly action-filled series. There is some shooting, some gunplay, some running and driving quickly, but in most cases it's a sort of a development of the relationship between these 2 characters, John and Jane Smith. Okay. So this one is an okay episode, not a great one, but there is some funny stuff in it. There is some interesting stuff, and you see the affection between the 2 characters developing a bit, even though they absolutely don't know each other. So that's it for episode number 2.